Hey, Camp Girl Boss, it's Emily Breedlove, and we are back again today with a live interview. So I'm joined by a friend of mine. Her name is Adora Winquist. You guys know her from one of our business case studies. She's one of the original founders of Adora Therapy. She's what's called a modern alchemist, and she builds business around wellness, which I know a lot of you guys are also building business that's around healthy living and natural living and wellness products. So this is going to be a super fun conversation with Adora. And I just want to first say thanks, Adora, for joining us today.
My pleasure, Emily. Thanks so much. It's wonderful to be here with you all.
Well, so can you explain what a modern alchemist means to you and what it is that you do in your business?
Absolutely. That's a great. Sure. So, a modern alchemist, from my perspective, is um, parts scientist, parts chemist, parts potion creator, parts dreamer, parts healer, and parts pioneer. And so I like to say that a modern alchemist is really an amalgamation, which just means a commingling and intermingling or combining of many different aspects of creativity, of which I know that your wonderful gals at Camp Girl Boss are all very creatively minded. And so I work with essential oils, plant medicine. I work with vibrational medicine, which is a form of healing, energetic healing. And maybe some of the gals have heard of healing or Reiki or therapeutic touch. I work with plants and crystals and imagery and intention in my own kind of cauldron, so to speak, of alchemy for healing, for personal growth, for transformation, so that we can ultimately all live the lives that we've always dreamt of living, whether we're young or my age, which is now middle aged or even older. We all have dreams of living life in a certain way and being the best that we can be. And so a modern alchemist is really what helps to pave that pathway.
Well, what's so cool about Camp Girl Boss is that we get to see real world women using their passions and their vision and their creative magic, which is what in camp we talk about. Creative magic is kind of like your purpose, right? It's your higher calling, the thing that you're most passionate about. And you're able to build a business around really anything. So far, we've talked to a fairyologist, someone who built a business completely around the history of fairies. We've also talked to a baker and someone who manages finances and is a CPA in financial management, and with you of being able to work in different healing aspects and medicine in order to create services and products for who you care about. So looking at even just this concept of creative magic, what does that bring up for you in the way that you show up in your business?
I love that question, and I love
Mhm.
magic. Well, let me put it this way. So, right now, I'm in the final stages of finishing a book which is really about my passion and my purpose and what I'm bringing to the world after many decades of study and experience and being an entrepreneur. And the one thing that we go back to in the book is talking about creativity and the magic that you experienced when you're young, which is such a perfect conversation to have with all of your campers, Emily, because as we get older in life, sometimes there's this process called profound forgetting. But when we're young, we know what we love, whether it's fairies, like you mentioned. I have an 11-year-old girl, Lily, and a 6-year-old girl, Violet, and they love fairies. And they love mixing things, and they love music, and they love color and design, and all of these elements that are so clear for them at that young age. And so, creative magic for me is really about, as an adult, coming back to the things in my childhood that made me feel alive, that made me feel magical, that made me feel powerful in a way of being connected to everything around me. And so creative magic is that. I think that it's something that we can breathe in. It's something that we can connect with palpably. It's something that we can connect with tangibly, especially in nature. Nature is such a potent form of creative magic because we're able to work with all of the elements, whether it's air or I won't say fire, but I'll say a candle per se, right?
Mhm.
Or water. Like all of these elements that we find in nature are such potent forms of creation, and being able to connect with the creative magic that is so easy for us to do when we're young.
Well, and so what you're really lucky to do in the business that you've created for yourself is that you take that creative magic as well as all of the talents and the education that you've been exposed to over your life, and you turn that into kind of this sensory healing, right? Like you create products that tap into people's senses and that help them really heal themselves and feel comfortable in their own skin and just feel more balanced in their life. How do you connect the dots for yourself and for the girls that are also thinking about creating wellness products? How do you take that creative magic inspiration and turn it into products that help other people?
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great question. For your campers, I would say that the point of looking into something as creating it for a business, right? Really, it's about creative magic is taking our passion and turning it into something that becomes profitable, right? It's a passion that
Yes.
turns into a business. And so it's really about going inside and being able to listen to that inner voice that we all have, right? Cultivating the connection to that inner voice to find out what the passion is because it's so unique to every person. So for me, when I was young, I liked to mix potions that were very much aromatic, right? That there was a sense of aroma because for me, that made me feel alive and that made me feel connected and that made me feel vital. And so that was one way that I created a business opportunity was through the power of using one of our most evocative senses, the sense of smell, into a way that we can empower our emotions, empower our life force, that we can heal and that we can transform and awaken to things that, maybe we've never thought possible before. But for some, it could be the whole concept of mixing things together, like mixing lotions and butters and creams for the texture of them and for the effect that they have from a tactile perspective, right? Being able to create something that we can touch and that we can touch others with in that way. And so I think it's a very individual process to be able to find out what is right for you, what really makes your soul, your heart sing. Because once we find that, then there's no limitation of what's possible.
I love that. Well, and I think that really captures what it is that we're, exploring with these girl bosses of being able to start first with what they love and what inspires them, and then how you turn that into the kind of product that you're proud of, right? That you're able to create a change in the world that you want, and whether that's healing others or inspiring others, or like my daughter. So she in the videos with Ella, she wanted to create products that helped young girls feel more comfortable in their own skin. And so in many ways it's along those lines. So I pulled so we have what's called the Girl Boss Persona deck, right? Where so we've
Oh,
got
cool.
40 cards that are kind of like tarot cards, but for leadership personality. And so all the girls have four. As you were talking, I was thinking about the four that I think really represent you. First is healer and pioneer, you
Mm,
said. Also part scientist. So I know that you're constantly pulling apart what it is that you're creating, and then teacher, because I know education is a big piece for you. So we look at the girl boss personas as part of our leadership process of really getting clear on we are the person, the idea, the heart behind the work that we do. For these elements, these different sides of who you are, how do you think it really adds to the way that you create product, but also how you use your business to help other people?
mm. I think that's a great query because it's so important for us to have balance.
Hmm.
Right? from my perspective as both a healer or an aromatherapist, I'm always looking at something not just from the artistic perspective, right? What is it going to smell like? How is it going to make me feel? But also from a scientific perspective.
Mhm.
Chemically, how are these plant oils going to combine? And when they combine, what is their effect going to be synergistically? Right? So, what main chemical components are going to have a primary effect? Whether it's going to be something I'm creating, maybe a formula for anxiety or for depression or for digestion, right?
Mhm.
So, I'm always going to come at it from both perspectives. And I think that's really important that we have that balance, right? So we're not singularly focused. We're open to everything around us from a 360-degree perspective. And so the science is just as important as the listening ear that I offer to my clients or groups as a healer, right? And
Yeah.
as a teacher, to be able to combine all of the elements within me, my heart, my mind, my grace, but also strength are going to be so important to be able to educate in the most comprehensive and clear way possible.
Yeah. Well, and that's what's so cool about being able to do this work. And I know the campers are just really being able to discover that they get to make this almost potion of their business, right? They get to combine all these different elements of themselves and even parts that they don't think fit well together. They end up really being your special sauce, you know? Like who would have thought that scientist and healer would work so simultaneously together that they actually are in the exact same moment and it's what makes you and your product so magical. So thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for sharing your wisdom with us. Is there any other
My
piece of
pleasure.
advice that you would give to girls as they're in the space of really trying to figure out what it is that they want to do and how they go about building it for themselves?
Absolutely. I do think balance is so important. And I reflect upon my 11-year-old Lily, and she is a super creative genius and always coming up with these ideas of a book that she wants to write and the illustrations for it and the whole concept, even down to the clothes that perhaps her character is going to be wearing. And so to balance that out with an area that she doesn't love as much, which right now is math, right? And we all know we all have an inner math genius somewhere. It just takes sometimes a little bit more support, encouragement, and different strategy to find it. But one of the things that I'm talking about with her is how important math is, even though you don't think it's going to be when you're in school. But when you have your own business, you apply math principles every day, right? And I was working with my team this morning on creating these new product costing spreadsheets, right? Without that, how would I know how much to sell the product for? And
Mm-hmm.
if I was going to be profitable? I can remember the years where that wasn't even a consideration. I was similar to my 11-year-old daughter because I had an idea, I wanted to create it and I wanted to sell it. But I didn't have all of the information to make it sustainably successful. And that's where that balance comes in such an important paradigm.
Well, and so luckily that's one of the activities that we do in camp looks at pricing. So it's called Cupcake Financials, where we go to small cakes and the campers get to create their own unique recipe of a cupcake. But then the challenge is that they have to price it. And so
Uh,
we have all of the ingredients and we have the overhead and the break even and the profit margin and all those things. And so they then have to reach that final price because it's so important. So yeah, I completely agree that
right.
especially when it
I love.
comes to business, it's that balancing act.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's great. Thank you, Emily.
Yeah, thank you. Well, and so campers, if you have a question that you want to ask Adora, shoot it over to me in the forum and I will send it her way and post it there for you. Thank you again, Adora, for joining us today. And tell your daughter if she wants to join camp. We've got 3 more weeks of registration. We'd love to have her.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks so much.
All right. Well, you have a great day, and campers, we'll see you back here tomorrow. Bye.
Bye bye.